All right, so you guys know what time it is. It is time for more Oblivion Remastered news and updates. Because yes, we've got critical feedback that Bethesda is looking into. And we also have to talk about things that are not going to be changing for Oblivion Remastered. And Oblivion Remastered does not support mods officially, but could we be seeing some sort of official DLC release eventually for the remastered version? Well, there is some hope here. I'll talk about that as well. And mentioning mods, what does it look like for the future of Oblivion Remastered? Will we see entirely new creations, and how easy is it for modders to actually mod the game? And of course, I'm going over your top comments, so be sure to leave a comment down below. And remember, I'm also doing a very big Oblivion Remastered giveaway, so for a chance to win a copy of Oblivion Remastered, see that top pinned comment. But we got to start out with the official news here. This is huge. Check it out. We are so grateful to the over 4 million of you that have already ventured into Cyrodiil with Oblivion Remastered. Thank you. That is insane. This game has been barely out, and it goes to show that yes, remasters for 20-year-old games do actually work, and there is a major interest if it is done right. And yeah, I really hope that we see more of this, I just gotta say. And feedback continues to roll in for Oblivion Remastered. You guys have been extremely vocal out on the community Discord, and Bethesda did respond. It looks like they are taking you guys pretty seriously here. Check it out right here from one of the community managers. It says, the suggestions are passed to the developers. That is why we are trying to keep the chat organized so we can see everything clearly. And we're going to go over some of the bigger suggestions, things that have the most upvotes, which are most likely going to be seen by the developers more clearly. So let's start out and see what you guys had to say. Now, does this mean that we would see this eventually in the game? That's going to be ultimately up to the developers. But I imagine, considering how much noise there is around a lot of this feedback, the developers will be paying attention more to this sort of stuff. So let's get into it here. So here we go. Here's the first one. It says, I'd like to suggest a change to the leveled rewards to maintain balance without making the rewards unleveled. An upgrade system similar to how the Knights of the Nine set can be upgraded to match the player's level by placing it on its stand. I want to see this system across all leveled rewards, perhaps a more refined approach like a special forge that uses something like sigil stones found in Oblivion, which can be used to turn the reward into a higher version once you reach a certain level. That way, you don't need to make things unleveled and throw things off balance, keeping your power level the same instead of having to wait until a certain level to do the game's amazing quest. This by far got a lot of feedback from players in that Discord. A lot of people want to see this change, but sound off, do you guys agree with this or not? Remember, the more noise you make as a community towards something, the likelihood it could actually make an impact and we could see a change. With that being said, there's no guarantees. However, I did find this post very interesting right here. I'm mainly coping, but started hoping. It says, are you going to sleep? Yes, I am. Now shut up. Let's see what the brain has to say here. Bethesda probably re-released the remake of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion on the 19th anniversary, so they can re-release it on the 20th anniversary with things like Rebuild Kvatch, fishing, more potions, Jiglag Shrine, etc. They did it for Skyrim, probably even Creation Club. Then we have the reaction here by the 9. I fucking hope so. Me too. Dude, that would be absolutely insane if that could actually happen. I don't want to overhype anything, but man, it would be so cool if they could just give us new content, new DLC. I would absolutely love that. So yeah, hopefully Bethesda has plans to do that, and it would make a great segue into Elder Scrolls 6 to have updates to Oblivion Remastered, because this thing has been an absolute smash hit. And I think it deserves more of a revisit when it comes to new DLC and content. And yet again, keen players did notice some key features from the original Oblivion that just did not make it into the remastered version. Here we go. Subcategories desperately need to be put back into the remaster. I don't know how they messed up this OG feature up. And a lot of people, 3,400 upvotes on this, want to see this return. Check out a response here. They need to add sort by item type, Having all the potions, alchemy equipment, and ingredients jumbled together is really annoying. This is one of the most frustrating things currently right now about inventory management. I really, really wish they could have overhauled the inventory a little bit more. And I think that's one of the core quality of life improvements that need to be updated through some sort of patch in the future, big time. It would make the game so much more enjoyable for sure. Now, what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with the fact that they need to have a return of subcategories maybe? sound off in the comments down below. Now also, we did talk a little bit about this in a previous video, but we got to expand upon it here, so check it out. It says the difficulty levels need some serious adjustments. However, the best solution would be to separate the variables for damage dealt and damage received. This will allow for fine-tuning difficulty in a way that mods would never be able to achieve. Yeah, something needs to change here for sure. And the jump between Adept and Expert is definitely something else. Now, some of you I did notice, maybe I'll get into those comments here in just a moment. You guys mentioned that, hey, don't touch the difficulty. I'm fine with it. It's just that you need to get good. But it seems like there's a sentiment here that the jump between Adept and Expert is definitely a problem. All right, I say we keep going here. Check it out. Is it possible to make luck affect loot drops? According to all resources, luck only does the following. Applies an invisible +4 buff to all skills for every 10 points above 50, maxing out at invisible, +20 on all skills that cannot exceed the 100 cap. Gives Arena Pit Fighter, you bet on more health so they can have a higher chance of winning. And unconfirmed, maybe reduces the chance of hammers breaking during repairs. I've actually heard of that one. Now, like, it's kind of bonkers to me that luck does nothing for loot drops when luck as a stat is seen as a sneak build attribute that goes around assassinating and looting. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put that update in there where luck, of course, would influence loot. I always think of luck, at least in modern day RPGs, as influencing the loot pool in some way where you have a better chance of acquiring better gear. It's a small chance usually, but it's nice to know that luck would be working in your favor in that regard. But yeah, again, sound off. Do you think this feature should be left alone? Do you think it should be just kept like the original game? Or do you think it would be refreshing to see them update this sort of thing? All right, what do we got next here? So, a major decrease in speed when backing up in combat. This will help make dodging more viable and reduce a sense of overpower brought by backpedaling. Now, this got actually some downvotes, and I highlighted this one because I do not think that this sort of change would make it into Oblivion Remastered. There are things that they probably will not look at if it does have downvotes and feedback that's overall negative to the idea or suggestion. Not to say that it isn't a good idea. Maybe some of you guys would actually like that sort of thing, so sound off if you would. I do think, again, that it would be cool to have more options with walking speed when it comes to playing on PC. That's just my opinion because, yeah, on console, it's just, to me, far easier when pushing the stick and being able to choose like a multitude of walking speeds. But that's just me, that's me being picky, of course, by the way. All right, so what do we got here? Hello, Oblivion Remastered team. Wrist irons are still the only unarmored glove option in the game. It would be really cool if even a basic glove variety was added to clothing merchants to give more enchanting options to unarmored characters. This one got a lot of attention, so yeah, would they potentially add more wrist options in the future? We'll have to wait and see what the planning is behind future updates for this game, if in fact we do get all new content. But that would be very, very cool, and it would give us new options for builds, like never before seen options, I think, in the future. All right, what do we got here? Would be cool to hear the sound of rain when inside buildings. This is a smaller feature, but look at how much response it got from the community. It's one of those things where it just adds so much immersion to the game, and I really hope they could add this into the game because I love the sound of rain in RPGs. In fact, I wanted to mention that I noticed that with the weather cycle, I feel like it doesn't rain enough. When it starts raining, it feels like it ends very, very quickly. So I wish they would make storms and rain last longer. That's just my opinion. Let me know if you guys agree with me or not. And I think this one is a super important one that needs to be added. After clearing dungeons, make them show cleared on the map so you don't accidentally go back into a dungeon that you've already been in. But we got to talk about, yes, modding. So there was this post that I noticed right here, update on modding potential of Oblivion Remastered. And this comes from top tier modders that posted out on Nexus under one article. And of course, that can be found right here. We're going to dive into what they had to say right now. So the article goes on to read this. What do we know so far about how the game works? As soon as the game dropped, we were all frantically downloading it here at the office, ready to poke around and find out how it all worked. However, less than an hour after release, the super talented users in the community with a passion for reverse engineering had already cracked the game wide open and were discussing their findings. So we're keeping an eye on their conversations and supporting them if we can. And they went on to give a special thanks to the members of the modding community. Of course, right here, Doodlem Shady O'Shea, D3, and other members of the Discord as well. Now, Oblivion Remastered uses an interesting hybrid of two different game engines, of course, a modified version of the original 2006 Oblivion game engine, and of course, Unreal Engine 5.3. Now, they did mention that there's a few key things collected from their observations. The core data from the game is still loaded from the plugin files as with the original games. However, each game object record in the plugins is mapped from Oblivion Engine to Unreal Engine using JSON. This means that the traditional methods of detecting conflicts may not work anymore, which of course complicates things. And they go on to summarize a lot of stuff here, as you can see. I'm not going to read all of it because they do get into like code terminology and stuff like that. But what does this mean for the future of Oblivion Remastered modding when it comes to like all new mods, perhaps even like a big expansion type mod that the community could work on? Here it is. So to heavily summarize, there's some potential here, but unless we get an official construction set from Bethesda Virtuos, there's a lot of reverse engineering work to be done before modding can be fully realized. Please don't badger the super smart folks working on this. Let them code. And they're also working on things around Vortex. I say this, what we have planned, we have already worked on the official extension for Vortex, which is up and ready for you all here. And there are plans to add Oblivion Remastered to the Nexus Mods app roadmap too once the modding scene becomes clear. So yeah, what does this mean for Oblivion modding? It's just that there's a lot more workarounds than beforehand, so things are going to be a lot slower releasing in the future. Doesn't mean it's impossible to see a much larger expansion type Oblivion mod where they can like rework the entire map or something like that. No, it's very possible. It's just that they need more like official tools from Bethesda to really make things happen a lot quicker. It's ultimately going to come down to the modders if they have the passion to really work on something big and new for Oblivion Remastered. Let me tell you what, the modding community here for Elder Scrolls is just different. So I do anticipate some bigger mods to be releasing for Oblivion Remastered. Besides, it seems like Elder Scrolls 6 is still a ways to go, and it would make sense for modders to bring us something really, really big. All right, so you guys know what time it is. It is time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up in a future video. And also remember, I'm doing a very big Elder Scrolls for Oblivion Remastered giveaway. So for a chance to win a copy, see that top pinned comment. So yeah, let's dive into this right now. So we have this one. They should add a feature that shows you when you cleared a dungeon. This is by far the most requested feature that you guys would like to see from, you know, at least my community here. So crossing my fingers that this one actually happens for you guys. Now, he does have some edits here. This feature is mostly see where I have and have not been, so that I'm not exploring dungeons I've already been to. And since the average person can't read, I'll repeat it in painful detail. I know dungeons reload enemies and chests. This is so, for example, if I go into a dungeon and kill every enemy, it indicates so on the map, so I know I've been there before and have explored it. This way you can see what dungeons you haven't been to yet. Makes sense to me. Yeah, I already understand that dungeons reload stuff, but yeah, so to keep like content fresh and to know where you've been, it just makes sense. I completely get where you are coming from, of course. Now we have this one from Jeremy. Shadow drops are absolutely the most exciting thing in gaming. It's such a rush, especially when it's a game like this that is a beloved series and game. I really feel like for some reason that this Oblivion Remastered release, how it was shadow dropped, the whole thing will kind of like go down in gaming history. I think that this is perhaps a turning point for a lot of publishers and developers that are going to be like, this was an immense success. Maybe we should do that. Because there's a lot of benefits to both publishers and, of course, the gaming community doing these shadow drops. I went into that, of course, in a previous video. But yeah, I expect to see a lot more publishers jump on board this sort of thing. All right, what do we got here? Bethesda fixing bugs? What's this witchcraft you speak of? Yeah, I hear ya. But hey, right now, currently, at least we have the modding community really working on fixes and updates and performance enhancements to the game. So yeah, it feels like the normal Elder Scrolls Oblivion type experience for sure. All right, so we have a comment here about level scaling. Instead of replacing lower level spawns with higher level ones, they should just partially spawn higher level ones. This is a good mix of rewarding progression by beating low level enemies while still encountering high level opponents. That's a great middle ground right there, so that you at least still feel very, very powerful when perhaps revisiting areas that you had already explored that were kind of like tough at first. I love that idea, and it seems like 94 of you guys in the community has 94 upvotes like that I did too. But we have another comment here. The level scaling on gear punishes people who like to rush all the unique gear at level 1. Looting at level 5 weapon late game would feel very bad. That's why they do it. My biggest issue is the difficulty scaling. It's all over the place. The difference between adept and expert is insane. This has a lot of upvotes right here. So will Bethesda really pay attention to the most upvoted feedback? It's going to be up to the dev team, but I will definitely keep you guys in the know if we're going to be seeing any forthcoming patches. And if they supply any patch notes, I will be definitely breaking that down for you guys. But thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more Oblivion Remastered news and updates, and keep those ideas rolling in as Bethesda is really looking into it. We'll see what happens. But thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.